Welcome back to the Tech Ed Podcast. I am your host, Matt Kirkner. As a lifelong athlete, every coach I ever had told me that when you're in a race, you finish strong and you sprint across the finish line, and you don't stop running until you are well past that finish line. We are doing exactly that here at Automate. This is our final episode. I want to say 23, 24 episodes that we have put together for you over the course of this week, and we are finishing really strong. As everybody knows by now, we are at the largest gathering of automation professionals anywhere in North America. 750 exhibitors, 25,000 attendees walking through the doors and through the aisles of this great facility here in Detroit, Michigan. All week. I have to mention also that we are live from the FANUC Education Pavilion. FANUC, the world's leader in the world of automation. I can think of no better guest to help us finish strong, to sprint across the finish line than the gentleman that we have with us today. He is not just the man of the hour, I would say the entire week here at Automate. Jeff Burnstein is the president of the Association for Advanced Automation, known as A3. Many of our listeners are probably already familiar, but A3 is responsible for this incredible event that we call Automate. So as we reflect on an amazing 4 days of learning, of education, of keynote speakers, of amazing demonstrations, of phenomenal exhibitors, we have the right person sitting with us at the table in the form of Jeff Burnstein. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us on the Tech Ed Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's about just an incredible week, I would imagine, right? I mean, we're finishing strong. Are you finishing strong too? Do you still have all this energy that we started the week with on Monday morning?
I don't know if I have it all, but I have enough to finish the job.
Awesome.
I know that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be just incredibly proud of the work that you and your team have done in creating this awesome event. I mean, what is it like to see now the end of the week, 25,000 some odd people coming through the doors here and experiencing the future that is American manufacturing? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, if you look at it from my perspective, you realize that about a little over a decade ago, there were companies that were so disenchanted with what was then the International Robots in Vision and Motion show that was held in Rosemont during the bitter days of the Great Recession.
Rosemont, Illinois.
Yeah, 2009, we had a show that was, let's say, less than satisfactory.
Okay.
And companies just were saying, okay, if you can't fix this, I don't think we can do this show again.
Huh.
And I think about that. It was a 40,000 square foot show.
Right.
We decided to completely reimagine it. It became Automate, laid out differently, a whole different approach to the event. And from that 40,000 square foot show to this show, which is over 300,000 square feet for an every other year show until last year when COVID hit, and then it became a show in 22 and 23, and now, of course, we've decided to make it an annual show.
Yeah, well, and judging from the excitement here, I think that makes all the sense in the world. One of the things that we've talked with our guests all week about, Jeff, is the fact that, and I was here last year as well, there's new technologies and transformations in spaces that have happened literally in just 12 months. And so it really speaks to the rate of innovation that's taking place in automation, in robotics, and machine vision, and artificial intelligence, and the list goes on and on and on. Is that part of the reason that we need to have these people back every year, is that the technology is changing so quickly?
Absolutely. I mean, in the earlier days when they said it should be an every other year show, it was for that reason.
Right.
Nothing's changing, so what's the rush? Today, things are changing at light speed. I mean, you talk about artificial intelligence. Some of the most successful companies at this show are in that field.
Right.
Why? Because the technology is quite a bit advanced in the past year.
Absolutely, yeah. We've had a lot of folks talking about machine vision. We had some folks from Ford and from FANUC in the booth with us 2 days ago, I believe it was, talking about how the combination of machine vision, machines, and robots that can see now as well as humans, we need to have some kind of a brain in the form of artificial intelligence that is the back end of all of that technology. And we've had tremendous conversations about artificial intelligence all week. Speaking about being on the back end of advancement, your organization, A3, of course, is behind this entire event, but you do a lot more than just the Automate show. So tell our audience a little bit about A3.
Yeah, A3 is made up of about 1,200 member companies around the world. We're an international association. Our goal is to educate companies on how to successfully automate. And if you look at what we do other than automate. Automate is just a tool to educate people.
Sure.
But we have a great website at automate.org with tons of information on how to get started with automation, who the companies are in the field. We develop industry standards, particularly on robot safety, which is critical to the success of the industry.
Right.
If it's not safe, then you shouldn't be using it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, especially in the world of industrial automation, manufacturing, and I was in that space. I was a manufacturing CEO for 22, 23 years and sold our manufacturing company in 2014, dedicated the rest of my career to securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. And I've been in the chair, or better put, probably in the bed when the phone rang in the middle of the night. Somebody had gotten hurt at work. We had a workplace accident. And that's like the worst feeling when you're running a company, is when you know that one of your valued team members isn't going home as safely as they came to work. That just really, really eats at the center and the core of your heart. So that safety part of what you do, really important as well.
Yeah, and then we also collect statistics on the market, so lots of business intelligence you can get through A3. We have events on autonomous mobile robots. That's become a big area.
Absolutely.
And we also have events on AI and smart automation and robotic grinding and finishing. It's just a great resource for learning about the industry and how to take advantage of it for your company.
And it's an industry that is advancing at such an incredible rate, as we've already discussed. What are some of the new and exciting things that you've seen here? You talk about artificial intelligence. We're seeing lots and lots of collaborative robots. We had a gentleman in here yesterday from Auto Motors, one of the many AMR suppliers, that autonomous mobile robot suppliers that you've got on offer here at Automate. What are some of the other incredible things that you've seen this week?
So I haven't had the chance to spend as much time on the show floor as I would like, because I've been doing a lot of podcasts and talking to the media a lot, which is why my voice is going right now.
It's okay. We're glad that you saved us for last, by the way. Saved the best for last, so thank you.
I did, thank you. But so things like RoboTire. Okay, this is an application that really excites me. So there's a shortage of people to work in places like Discount Tire. They're faced with this labor shortage. So what that means is, if you go into a Discount Tire or any competitor to them, you could wait hours to have the tires on your car changed. They have a robot system that they say will do it in 20 minutes, and they will do it completely accurately, because the system knows exactly what kind of car you have. It knows how tightly to torque the wheel, and it collects all the data. So if anything were to go wrong, they would know exactly what happened. And so what that means for somebody who wanted a job in a tire store, instead of lifting heavy tires all day, which how many people really want to do, and can people like me do it? No, I can't lift tires all day. But if I could run that application from a cell phone, which is what they say is possible, that is a real big advance, in my opinion. It's a great application area, and it shows that let robots do the dull, dirty, dangerous jobs that people don't want to do, and let the people do the part of the job that oversees the process, so they can use their brain.
Absolutely. As somebody who spent, as I mentioned, my entire career in manufacturing, saw the advent of robotics. So I got into manufacturing in the mid-'90s. So you can imagine in the whatever many years it's been that have ensued since then, 27, 28 years, just all of the incredible advancements in manufacturing technology. And what we find is that the closer an individual gets to the automation, the better the job pays. To your point, the safer that job is, the more exciting and the more interesting it is, but the higher skill that's required, which really speaks to the importance of all the work that you're doing at A3. You've talked on about a couple major trends that we're seeing in the world of automation, Jeff. Artificial intelligence certainly being one of them, among others. Are there other trends that you're looking at in terms of the next 5 to 10 years that our audience should be thinking about?
One of the big trends has been focusing on ease of use, because ease of use is critical to reach smaller and medium-sized companies. And so now you're seeing the advent of low-code or no-code robotics. And I think that could be a significant trend, because if I'm a small company and I don't have any experience in applying this technology, the fear is that it's going to be too complex. But if you can buy a solution and have it up and running the same day or the next day, that is really an important development.
Absolutely. Yeah. We think about these technologies like lead through programming, low code or no code to your point, and it really demystifies and uncomplicates the whole idea of robotic proliferation, which we're going to see. We're already seeing it, and we're going to see a ton more, we know, in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be a fascinating time to be in this industry, but only if we can solve for the workforce challenge, which I know you're spending a lot of time on, in as much as A3 is all about how do we educate that, not just the next generation of talent, but the current generation, people who are already working in the workforce, working in manufacturing. Talk specifically about the efforts that you're seeing, what you're hearing from the market, and what you think we need to do as a country to upskill this next generation of technologists and talent.
Yeah, it's a difficult challenge because there's a number of things that need to be done. So you think about the FIRST robotics program that excites all these kids when they're in school. Right. You think about VEX robotics. Now, first of all, most of those kids don't go on to have careers in manufacturing.
Right.
But also, those are extracurricular activities.
Right.
They're not part of the curriculum.
Right.
So we could start at an early age saying, hey, this is important to us as a nation. We want to put those kinds of teachings in school. The other thing that we don't do well, sorry, my language isn't good right now.
It's late in the day, right?
So the other things that we don't do as well as we could, apprenticeship programs.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important that kids get an opportunity to actually experience what it's like to work in this industry, right? Other countries like Germany have done better at that.
Certainly.
And another thing, particularly in this country, is we put a high value on 4-year degrees,
right.
And we should.
Right.
But
for certain endeavors, yeah.
Community colleges, technical schools, getting those certificates that would make you immediately employable for all these open jobs, we should put more emphasis on that.
Sure, absolutely.
And so there's it's a multi-pronged issue.
No question. Are there organizations or institutions of higher education or education in general that you would point to that are doing this well? What are some great examples?
Well, I mean, here at this pavilion, we see a lot of institutions that are doing a great job. Macomb Community College,
right.
Lake Superior State, Focus Hope here in Detroit.
Yeah, we interviewed them yesterday. It's awesome.
They're all great institutions.
Right.
Oakland Community College.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know we've got Gateway down here, and we of course, we're sitting here in the FANUC Education Pavilion, and we've seen students coming through here all day. Today was the workforce day, the kind of the next generation day here at Automate. Did you get a chance to engage with any of the students that were coming through?
I wish I had. I saw some of them coming through. I didn't get a chance to engage, but there were hundreds of them here being guided on tours by people who either work in the industry or used to work in the industry. And it's really exciting development here at Automate. It's the first time we've really had a chance to do what we want to do. Last year, the show was held right when school was getting out, so we couldn't get the students here. But this year, we got lots of them, and I could tell they were having a good time.
Absolutely. Well, how can they not? I mean, you look about it for any student that's gone through a VEX program, gone through a FIRST robotics program, and I'm a great advocate of those things as well. Again, not every one of those students is going to go on to a degree or to a career in automation or advanced manufacturing, but as they're going through that and then getting exposure maybe to an industrial robot in their class or being here at Automate and seeing all of this, being inspired toward those careers, at least they know that's a career that they could have, and not all of them are going to select it, but it's important for them to know about it. And that's what I saw here as we were sitting in the podcast booth, and as you can imagine, the students are oftentimes a lot less shy about putting their faces up against the glass and looking at what's going on in here than the adults are in the previous 3 days.
Sure.
You see this level of excitement and of anticipation for what they're seeing and what they're going to see as they're going through here. Really credit to you, to Automate, to A3 for inspiring them in that fashion, because I think that's exactly the kind of work that we need to be doing. What are you, as you reflect on this, and I'm sure you'll do your postmortem every year as what went awesome, what are some things that we would tweak a little bit? This show is one that is continually improved every single year, and as much as continuous improvement drives manufacturing, it also drives a show and event like Automate. What are some of the things on the horizon for the next several years, Jeff, that you have on your radar?
In terms of Automate?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you look at the range of technologies here, they're pretty broad. But there are a lot of things that aren't here still that would fit in the category of advanced automation.
Sure.
And so we're looking at how we might bring in some more of those elements too. things like sensors. You
Sure.
know, we have vision sensors
Yep.
here. There's a lot of other types of sensors
For sure.
that would, I think, be a good fit with this show. And there's some other technologies as well.
Absolutely. I don't think there's an episode of the Tech Ed podcast that goes by that we don't talk about smart sensors and smart devices communicating with each other, embedded intelligence. And you're right. I mean, it's certainly vision sensors, but photoelectric sensors and proximity sensors and temperature sensors and photo eyes and all these other technologies that we see out on the edge that are just proliferating as we advance their ability to embed intelligence in them. And that was actually an observation that I had. There's a lot of those suppliers that really should be here, and I think would find a great market at a show like this. So that'll be interesting to see as things move forward. So that's a couple ideas specific to automate. What about on the A3 calendar in general as you look out 5-10 years? What are the big things you'll be working on during that period of time?
Well, I think we'll continue to focus attention on the autonomous mobile robot space.
Yep.
You know, we do this event that we have coming up in the fall at FedEx in Memphis. That's been a great event for us to teach people in the logistics field what the technologies that are available are now. And that's obviously a rapidly growing space.
Right.
And then there are so many other industries where automation is just starting to get a foothold. Life sciences, agriculture, construction, food,
sure.
retail, restaurants. I mean, there's just a lot of industries out there that
Right.
could take advantage of the technologies that are either on display here or should be on display here.
Absolutely.
And I think in the next several years, that'll be more of a focus.
Absolutely. You'll be happy to hear that one of my very good friends, Andrew Barrio, who owns a company called Felons, which is a food packaging equipment company, had actually seen one of my LinkedIn posts earlier this week, I think Monday or Tuesday, emailed me and said, "Hey, I see you're at Automate. What, is this something that I should be at?" I said, "Of course you should be here." So lo and behold, Andrew booked his flight from Milwaukee to Detroit, walked in the front door this morning and walked the floor, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, my whole team should be here." He's somebody that does business in the food space. Every once in a while I talk on the podcast about my younger brother, who's the chief executive officer of a huge cheesecake company. They produce 80,000 cheesecakes a day. And
Wow.
so, and you look at the automation that is endemic in an operation like that, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. When Mike Chico, the president and CEO of Fanic America, a really good friend of mine, was on with us yesterday, he pointed to that food space as well as one that they're really looking at investing in. Huge growth there. So, I mean, there's just so many opportunities for us to grow in the world of automation. It's going to be a really exciting 5 to 10 years. We're nearing the end of our time. I think we have probably time for 2 or 3 more questions here with Jeff Burnstein. One of them, Jeff, I'm always fascinated by people's career pathways. And you think about, opportunities in automation and robotics. And certainly we talk about technicians, we talk about programmers and operators, we talk about integrators, we've talked to people who are presidents and CEOs of integrators, those kind of folks. The whole event management and association management side of things, that's something that, is obviously your entire career now. And that leadership that you're providing is literally changing an industry. How did you get here?
Yeah. Well, I talked about this last night at the Engelberger Awards ceremony where I was honored to win that prestigious
Congratulations.
award.
That's awesome.
Thank you. My journey is, I was an English major in college.
No way.
Yeah. And my first job out of college was promoting downtown Detroit for a business district association.
Okay.
And I like to tell stories, and the story of Detroit was an interesting one. It was once the 5th largest city in America.
Uh-huh.
The riots of the late 60s sort of devastated the city.
Right.
And then it was going to be Renaissance City. And right now we're starting to see the Renaissance that we predicted.
Yep.
But it took a long time.
It
Well,
did.
a similar thing happened in robotics. But I heard the story of robotics. I thought that I could play a role in helping promote that industry. And I think I was right, because as an English major, I didn't know anything about the technology at all.
Right.
And when I was talking to the press or the public or policymakers, they didn't care about the technology. They wanted to know what it did and why it should matter to them.
Right.
And so I could tell that story.
Yeah, you could communicate it.
And I'm still telling that story 40 years later.
Unbelievable. I have another close friend and colleague who actually found their way to automation and technology through the same route. So our producer, Melissa Martin, who's sitting to your left right now, was an English major at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and is absolutely fascinated with this technology. Her husband, Darren, actually works in the world of CNC with a highly advanced CNC company. fell in love with manufacturing for, I think, all the same reasons that I do. It's just that huge pleasure of seeing products made, looking over your shoulder at the end of the day and knowing that you had a part in making that. And now to see, I ran for a long time traditional manufacturing operations, and now we're in this era where manufacturing has become so automated, so technical, and for me it's super rewarding because the jobs are way cooler, they're way more exciting. Manufacturing coming back to the United States of America, I'll agree on your comments on Detroit. Been coming back and forth here for years, of course, and being my manufacturing days and being a tier 1 supplier to automotive, you can imagine we spent a fair amount of time over here. And even in the last 5 years, I was here for a meeting. I've been here several times since, but a meeting 5 years ago and stayed about 3 blocks away. You could kind of feel that maybe it was starting, but it still had a long ways to go. Maybe still does, but there is an energy about the city that's got to be gratifying for you to see as well.
It is. I grew up in Detroit, and it's very gratifying that by bringing Automate here, we could play a role in the revitalization of the city.
Absolutely.
And there are new hotels opening, and this convention center is improving.
Right.
And it's capable of hosting a show like Automate. And it's just been a great experience for me.
And you're showcasing the city to people from all over the world that are coming here to see the technology.
That's one of the most exciting things. When we announced a few years ago that we were moving the show to Detroit, there was a lot of resistance. People said, well, isn't that a dangerous city? Or is it someplace that, there are no shows like yours? I mean, why would we do that? And so we had to fly in our board of directors, many of whom had never been, or if they had, it had been so long they didn't know. Some who lived in the suburbs of Detroit who'd never been downtown.
Wow.
And they were blown away by the Riverwalk, by all the restaurants, by all the activity. It was not at all what they thought. It was completely safe, safer than any city, by the way, I've been in this year.
Sure.
And I've been in a lot of cities.
Right.
And so for me, that is really an important part of the story. You have to get people here to experience it.
Exactly.
And they really like it. And we'll be back in 2025.
Absolutely. And in another part of my life, totally separate from the Tech Ed podcast, we actually own a company that's headquartered near Detroit and acquired that company in 2018. And that's what's really given me the opportunity to come back here a number of times. And I love it here. I really do. I mean, there's so much to do. The food is phenomenal. The river is absolutely beautiful. This location is fantastic. So credit to you for doing, whether it's a small part or a big part or somewhere in between, of bringing all these people back to Detroit and showing them what a great place this is to be. And we'll look forward to being with you back here in 2025 as well. One last question for you, Jeff, as we close out our time together and really start to close out Automate. I mean, it's almost surreal to be sitting here with the gentleman behind the whole program as we finish our time here. It's a question we love to ask all of our guests on the Tech Ed podcast, and I want to take you back way before this fascination with robotics and automation and telling the story for some 40 years, before the English degree, all the way back to when you were a 15-year-old young man growing up here in Detroit, Michigan. And if you could give that young man one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
About anything?
Yeah, it's your answer. You can go anywhere you want.
Well, one thing that young people need to be thinking about, long-term financial stability.
For sure.
I wish that, I had started, for instance, investing in a IRA earlier, right? To build up more, resources when I retire.
Absolutely.
And so those are things that you don't think about as a kid.
Right.
And then, time goes on, you don't do it, and then you don't do it, and then you do it. And, it would have been better if you'd done it earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be the advice I'd give. Think about, your long-term financial situation.
Absolutely. I know so many of us get too far into life before we realize the amazing power of compounding and an investment over time, and making a small investment in something and adding to that and seeing it grow. The earlier you start, the more successful it is. I'm going to suggest there's a parallel actually there with Automate as well. Starting out investing in the renaissance of this show, of this event several years ago, getting bigger and bigger every year, more exhibitors every year, more excitement every year. 25,000 people coming here, so growing attendees every year. In so many ways, that's compounding in the same way that you hope that your investments compound, and it's happening because of your leadership and the leadership of your team. It's been an honor all week, Jeff, to be part of this. It's so cool that we're able to close out our time at Automate together, and that we saved this one for last, because it's your vision and your hard work that has really made this an incredible week. I know we're going to be together for years to come, and I just want to thank you for that vision, for that hard work, and for taking some time for us on the Tech Ed podcast.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure to have you here and to get a chance to chat with you.
We'll see you again next year.
Okay, thank you.